The very first thing that you must do when you want to discover more about yourself is notice your thoughts. Now, this takes some practice, but sometimes our mind wanders off in different directions. So here's an example. You're walking down the street. For example, I walk down the street in Barcelona and you see a beautiful couple, or you see a really well-dressed man or a well-dressed woman. And you say, they're really well-dressed, or they look really well. But your mind doesn't stop there. Your mind starts to think, well, I wonder who this person is. Who does he think he is all dressed up? Who does she think she is with her Gucci and Chanel? And what can happen if you don't notice your thoughts is that you start coming up with ideas, you start coming up with criticisms, which can happen, believe me. And suddenly, this person that you don't know is the biggest pain in the backside ever, who thinks that they're better than you, etc., etc., etc. Now what happens is, that person looks at you because maybe you've been staring at them too long. And suddenly you think, they're looking down on me. Who are they to look down on me? And you start feeling anger and frustration perhaps. And this all started with the one thought of, wow, look at that well-dressed couple, or that well-dressed guy, or that well-dressed girl. So unless you've been meditating for years, it's very, very difficult to control your thoughts. And I know when I went through a lot of my marital problems, that I would start thinking about things. It would start off with, why did this happen? And then I would start going down a huge rabbit hole. And for many years afterwards, it also happened that I'd be walking down the street and I'd see something, and that something would remind me of my previous marriage. And then because I remember my previous marriage, I remembered the negative things. And because I remember the negative things, and you know where that goes. So controlling your thoughts is very, very important. Now one way of doing that is by meditating, by jotting down your thoughts throughout the day, by realizing when you have a negative thought in your head. And you can do one of two things. You can eliminate that thought straight away, or you can say, okay, I'm going to think about this for 10 seconds and then I will eliminate it. I will acknowledge the thought, but I will then eliminate it from my mind. And the problem is, I believe, the more negativity we watch on TV, for example, the news or read the newspapers, the easier it is for negativity to get into our mind. If we block out negativity, and I'm not saying that you have to put your head in the sand, but you don't necessarily have to go out and look for negativity. So try and see things in a more positive light. Try and read more positive papers. Join more positive courses on Udemy. Join the Facebook group and get more positivity every day. Associate with more positive people, and your thoughts will become more positive. And you'll notice that they do change. Now, one of the ways of noticing your thoughts is when a negative thought comes into your mind, or a non-positive thought, see what you're doing. Is it because you're bored? Is it because you're hungry? Is it because you happen to be in a certain area of the city or a certain cafe? Because you see, there's something in neuro-linguistic programming that we call anchoring. And I have a prime example to share with you. There's a certain smell that sometimes I get of perfume, and I just can't locate the perfume. But I'll be walking down the street and I will smell that. Somebody will walk by and I'll just get the aroma of the perfume. And immediately that takes me back to a certain place in a certain town in Spain called Valladolid, which I spent a year in during an Erasmus program. And I always think of a certain shopping centre that was there, a shopping mall that was there. And it's amazing. It's like a trigger. So we have a lot of thoughts and we have a lot of anchors. And our anchors will fire off those thoughts. So the next time you have a negative thought, think about where you are, think about what you're doing to see if that is the cause of this negative thought. Examine if you judge people because perhaps you're jealous of them. Because when you're not authentic, when you don't know who you are, you may be jealous of that person who has a nicer car than you. You may be jealous of that person who has a prettier partner than you. But let me tell you one thing that I've discovered about people. that many people appear to be something on the outside, but the reality is different. Many people appear to be happy and in amazing relationships when they're not. So just because somebody appears to be something doesn't mean that that is them. So don't judge people in a particular way, because sometimes the person who's really angry is not an angry person, but it's because of what is going on behind the scenes. So maybe you have to reach out and say, is everything okay with you? So again, consider that, because sometimes we're too quick to judge somebody. We judge the book by the cover, which can be wrong. I want to talk about feelings though, because as I said, the feeling will start from the thought. You think about something and then you feel something. As I mentioned, you may feel jealous about the person. Maybe you feel angry. Now, again, think about the situations where your feelings come from. So, is it when you're driving your car? You get frustrated because somebody cuts in front of you. Is it when you're waiting in line that you suddenly get angry about a particular situation? So, it's important to think about this. What your feelings are in particular situations, and examine whether that feeling is necessary in that situation. Look, you're in the car, there's traffic. You can think about being late. You can start getting frustrated and angry, but what's going to happen? You're going to drive more carelessly, cutting in front of people as well. You're going to speed. You could have an accident. Now, what if you change those feelings? Because now that you're aware of them, and said, okay, I'm going to listen to some music. There is nothing that I can change in order to get there faster. What about waiting in line for something? There's a big queue for an amusement park. I was at an amusement park here in Barcelona last week, and there were queues. So what do? I get angry? Or I say, well, this is a time for me to chat to my friend, to catch up on my social media, to ring somebody. By changing the way you think about a particular situation, by becoming more self-aware, you're going to be happier. Because I used to get frustrated, I used to get angry. And I said, is it worth it? And really, it wasn't. Try and understand how to deal with frustration and emotions. Because I do believe that fundamentally, we want to be happy. And we want to change ourselves, and we don't want to be sad and depressed and frustrated. The longer you are frustrated and sad and depressed, it becomes a new normality. So, do you dwell on these things? No. It's better to say, okay, I'm frustrated. Think about why. Think about the situation, the anchor, the thoughts that you had. And say, okay, the next time I start to think about these things, instead of this emotional reaction, I'm going to change it to this other emotional reaction. Because once you are aware, you can start to control your emotions rather than your emotions controlling you. And this is key in many aspects of life. For diets, if your emotions are controlling you, you're going to overeat. If your emotions are controlling you, you're not going to be happy in your job. So you need to switch that around and be able to control your emotions. Realize that some things are out of your control. You have a circle of influence, but the one thing you can influence is yourself and how you react to things. It's very difficult to influence others because others will have their own way of dealing with things. If you're working as part of a team, you can control your element of the work. But if you have a team that are working remotely, it's very hard to control them. So realize this and build some sort of redundancy into your plans. So make sure that you give enough time for the others to do what they need to do, and you make sure that you present your work at the right time. Because let's say you're not aware that you're not very organized, and then you deliver your part of the project late. That puts pressure on the other team, which means that everything gets delivered late. Now you can't control the other team, but you can control your part to make sure that you give this to the other team at the right time. So think about what you can control and think about what's out of your control. So for example, I can't change the world. I can't change Barcelona. But I can change myself. I can change little bits about the neighborhood that I'm in. Because I can go to the supermarket and I can make somebody happy by smiling at them, by saying thank you, by saying have a great day. And that could change that person. And by me making that change, it could be like a butterfly effect, that that person leaves their job and says, actually I had a great day because people were so nice to me. And they go home and they're happy with their family. I can't directly control many things, but I know my circle of influence and I will control that. And by doing that, I'm helping others. So you see how self-awareness of my emotions, of my thoughts, of my feelings has now actually helped me be a better person already. In the next module, we're going to look at relationships, which are a key element of self-awareness.